What's going on, guys? Clint here, and in today's video we're going to be building a weather application in Next.js styled with Tailwind CSS. You guys, we're going to be using Axios to make our API calls and fetch all of our data from the OpenWeatherMap API. So if you're just getting started with Next.js or Tailwind, I think this would be a really great video for you. It's going to be a nice beginner-friendly tutorial. So I'm just going to go ahead and give you a nice demonstration of our application. So you can go ahead and search the city here at the top. Now notice no information is actually being rendered on the screen until we search our city. So this is what you see right here, and this is being pulled from the OpenWeatherMap API. This is the icon that we're pulling from OpenWeatherMap, the temperature and some other weather data there. And we can go ahead and search another city, just like that. Whoops, just like that, and it'll populate some new information. So if you want to see how I built this from scratch in Next.js style with Tailwind CSS using Axios for our API calls, then let's get started. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna shrink that down a bit here. Go ahead and give it a refresh, and I'm already inside my directory that I want to create my app. So let's go ahead and just create our Next.js application. So what I did is just press the control backtick button to open up my terminal here. And what I want to say here, I'm going to be using yarn. If you use npm, that's fine too. So yarn create next-app, and since I'm already in the directory I want to be working in, I'm just going to go ahead and hit the dot there, and it'll just install that into our current directory here. So this would be a nice quick install, and what we would need to do first is install Tailwind CSS. So once you go ahead and go over to tailwindcss.com and just click that Get Started button. Now, since we are using Next.js, it's going to be really easy. Just click that Frameworks guide right there and just click Next.js. Now, the first step, what it wants us to do is create our application. We've already done that, so let's just move on to step 2 here, which is install Tailwind. So let's go ahead and copy that line. Now, I'm just going to copy this last part here since I'm using yarn. And I'm going to say yarn add, and then just paste that in there like so. Then next, we're going to grab this npx Tailwind CSS init and go ahead and run that. And that's really important because it's going to give us this tailwind.config file. And that's important for our next step, because in step 3, all we need to do is just select that right there. And we're going to put this pages and components inside of that content array there. So just go ahead and paste that in. Nice quick save. We'll get it formatted. And then this is our final step here. We just want to copy in, and we're going to put this inside of our global styles. So in Next.js, if you're not familiar, all our styling is going to be inside this styles folder. Now, in here in this global styles, just go ahead and replace all of that. We're not going to use any of that boilerplate code that was generated when we ran the create next app. So this home modules, we actually can just delete that. And we're going to go ahead and just do some little cleanup here. We can close that global styles, and we'll close that config. We're actually done with Tailwind there, but we're done with the styles. Now inside the pages folder, we can actually delete the API folder because we're not going to be using that inside this this video today. And inside this index.js, we can actually remove the styles because that's the file we just deleted. We can remove this. Now the head here at the top, that's something that comes with Next.js, and we can actually go ahead and change this. I'm just going to say weather next app. And what you're going to see is whenever we start up our application, our development server, it's going to be that title right there at the top of our browser. So down here, this main, we can delete all this down to the footer. I'm going to get rid of that footer as well. And that should be all we need to do, just like that. So what I want you to do is go ahead and run your server. I'm going to say yarn dev, npm dev, using npm. And mine's going to be on 3001. There we go. So it should just be a blank screen, just like that. I'm going to go ahead and change this over to React so I can use my shortcuts here. And if we go ahead and say h1, hello, this should be a nice small p tag. It shouldn't have any font bold or anything like that, because Tailwind applies base styling. It allows for a lot more customization. So here we are in our application here, and what we should do first, what I want to do first is actually go over to the OpenWeatherMap. We can actually go ahead and start fetching some data. And so let's just go over to OpenWeatherMap and click on that weather API right there if you searched it in Google. Now, this is what you should see here. And what we're going to use here, scroll down. This is 100% for you guys. You don't have to use a credit card or anything. You do have to create an account, but it's 100% free. You don't have to add anything. So this is what I want you to subscribe to, this current weather data. Everything else you're going to have to pay for. So go ahead and click the Get API Key down here, and it is free. Now, I already have an account, so I'm just going to go ahead and sign in and grab my credentials here. There we go. Now go ahead and click on your name up here, and you're going to go down to API keys. So this is my API key here. So please, guys, just get your own, because after this build, I'm going to go ahead and close this account. So once you copy this API key, where we are going to want to put this is inside a .env file, and that's just going to hide this from the world if you deploy this thing. So for our .env file, come down here, and we're going to create this at the base level here. So just make sure you click down there somewhere, and let's go ahead and create our .env file. Now for Next.js, all we have to say here is next public, just like that, and then we can name this. I'm going to say weather key, just like that. So give it equal sign, and we can just paste in our key. So that's all we need to do for now. Now inside here, we should probably just go ahead and grab our endpoint. So go ahead and click this API tab here at the top, and we'll go back down to our current weather. This is what we just subscribed to. But now we're going to click on the API doc, and this is all the documentation for our endpoint that we're going to be using. And I want to be able to search by city name. So on here on the right, built-in API request by city name. Go ahead and click that. And I'm just going to select this here at the top right there, that one right there. So should be all we need to do for now. And we're going to put this in a constant right here. Let's say const URL. And very important, you guys, put this in backticks, because we're going to be passing through our API key and also eventually a search query as well. So what we want to do is use a template literal JavaScript. It's just the $, then our 2 curly brackets there. And what we can say is we're going to say next public, just like we said, weather key. There we go. Oh, sorry. Process.env. I'm going to go ahead and open this up so you can see. Process.env.next_public_ weather key, which is what we named our key over in here. So it's like that. So that is all we need to do for our API key. Now for our city name, I'm just going to go ahead and select that right there, and I'm just going to delete that and just type in a random city here, and we'll come back and make this dynamic and actually pass through our search query into that string here in just a little bit. But what I want to do now is actually probably just go ahead and let's go ahead and install Axios. We're going to be using Axios to make our API calls. So what we're going to say is yarn add npmi for using npm, yarn add Axios, just like that. And we're also going to be using a React icons package. We're just going to grab over a little icon. So yarn add React-icons, just like that. So nice, quick, and easy here. Now, inside of our application, let's go ahead and configure our API call and see if we can go ahead and start getting some data back here. So let's go ahead and import. I'm going to drop this down a bit. Let's go ahead and import Axios. So let's import Axios from Axios. And we're also going to be using the useState hook. So let's just go ahead and import that here. Say import useState from React. And then let's go ahead and import our search button that we're going to use called BS search, like that, and make sure it is case sensitive. We're going to grab this from React icons/BS. Very important you add that little BS file path at the end. So now we have access to Axios here. So let's go ahead and add in our state next. We're going to use a loading state, a city state, so we can pass in our search query, and then also a state for our data here. So I'm going to say const here, and I'm going to have city and set city. Now, don't worry too much about this. We're not going to use this here in just till a little bit, but let's go ahead and set that as an empty string. Then here we're going to have weather, and set weather. You can name this whatever you'd like, you guys. It's just what I like to name it there. And we're going to set this as an empty object by default, and then we'll have our loading, set loading, just like that. Okay, and this one's going to be false. So go ahead and give that a quick save there. That should be all we need to do there. Now, what we want to do actually for our API call, we're going to wrap this inside of a function here, and because we don't want it to run whenever the page loads, but rather whenever we search or make the query here. So, and what we're going to say here, I'm going to say const and wrap this in I'm going to call it fetch weather, just like that. Pass in an event. And inside here, I don't want the page to reload, so I'm going to say e.prevent default, just like that. And what we want to do next is actually set our loading to true, and then we'll set it to false afterwards. Set loading true. Now we can go ahead and make our call with Axios. So I'm going to say Axios.get, and then what we can do is just pass in our URL site, and we're just like that. We're just passing it in from right here above. And then we're going to say .then, and we're going to get a response here inside of our arrow function. And then we can just say we're going to set weather to the response.data. It's just a JSON format here. And what we'd also probably want to do is just go ahead and console.log the response as well, just so we can see make sure we're getting some data back. So that's all we need to do. That's all we need to do there. And after this, we probably want to set our search query, even though we haven't done this yet, but don't worry about that. Let's go ahead and set it back to an empty string. And this will make sense in a moment, you guys, if it doesn't already. And we'll set loading back to false here. So that's all we need to do there. Now, we don't have really a way to make our API call. So let's just create a little button right here to call that fetch weather function. So let's just say, give a button right there, and we'll say fetch, if I can spell, fetch data. And I just want to make sure that we're getting back a response here. So on click here, and we're just going to run the fetch weather, just like that. So let's go ahead and see if it's working. I'm going to give it a nice, we need to start our server here, yarn dev, and we're going to see if we get back any data here. So go ahead and take in just a minute. There it is. So let's open up terminal there. Make sure you can still see the screen. And what I want you to do is just go ahead and click that button, and we should get some data back. There you go. So this is the response that we're getting from the OpenWeatherMap API. And as you can see, if we scroll down through there, I know my my face is down here blocking some. I apologize, but don't worry about that. So you can see we have access now all this information from OpenWeatherMap, and inside this main you have temp. You know, you might like this here. What I want to do is actually change this to the imperial setting here. So what we can do, we can actually this is in the documentation over at OpenWeatherMap, but what we can do is just pass it in here. So I believe you pass it in here after the city right there. What we can say, give it a little and sign, and we'll say units equal to imperial, just like so. Now let's go ahead and refresh and fetch, and there we go. So temp 99 degrees in Dubai right now, feels like 100. So perfect, you guys. That is awesome. Now that we know we're getting a response back, that's what we need to know. Let's go ahead and style this thing out a bit. And like I said, we are using Tailwind CSS. So what I want to start off by doing here, we can go ahead and just get rid of that button. Now, what we want to start off as, I'm going to be using a overlay and also a background image that we're going to pull from Unsplash, which I think is really great, especially since we're using Next.js. You're going to have some, you're going to gain some familiarity using the image component inside Next.js, which is one of the main benefits of using Next. So we're not going to use all the benefits of Next.js, you know, server-side rendering, you know, and all the built-in routing system. But let's go over to the Unsplash website here, and I'm just going to look for, I'm going to see if I can find the exact image I used. Let's see here. Doesn't really matter. I think I used this one right here. So what I want to do is just click on that there, and I'm going to right click and just grab the copy image address. Just like that. I'm going to drop this down. So now what we're going to use here, and like I said, I'm going to be using the image component. So instead of saying image like that, what we're actually going to say is image source, and I'm just going to paste in that URL. Okay, open this up so you can see. Paste in that URL, and then I'm going to say, I'm going to close that off here, but inside here I'm going to say layout equal to fill, and the fill is going to be inside of quotes there. Whoops. So go ahead and save that. You can use any link you want to use there, but that's what we need to do right there. So first thing, we need to make sure that the image component is actually imported. So let's go ahead and make sure, yes, it is imported here. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit so it's easier to see for a moment. I want to make sure it's easier for you guys to see as well, though. So if we go over here, you're going to notice this error. And this is very common. This is what happens using Next.js. And what it's saying is that the host name images.unsplash.com is not configured. So what we need to do is just configure that super quick. So images, we can actually go ahead and just select that images.unsplash.com. Now let's open up our side menu with the Control B there, Command B. And what we need to do is find our next config file right there. So go ahead and click that. And inside here, what we can do is just open up some curly brackets there. And what we need to say is images, just like that. And then inside here, open up our curly brackets, domains. And we're going to use an array in here and then just paste this inside some quotes, just like that. Now, similarly, to the .env file, whenever you play around with your .env file, you have to restart your server. And the same goes for your next config file. And in fact, it tells us right here, restart the server to see any changes. So let's just go ahead and stop our server here. And what we need to do is I just cleared it out with the clear command, and then say yarn dev, and that's just going to go ahead and start our server. So if we get a refresh, everything should work. Images.unsplash.com is not configured. There we go. I think I just left that off there. Should be all we need to do. Go ahead and start this back up. As we do, have to restart every single time. And if we get a refresh, it should be working correctly now. It's taking a minute here. There it goes. Perfect. Now you see it, and don't worry about that. We can come back and fix that later. So it's wanting us to basically give it a parent, wrap it in a parent container of relative. But if you notice, this doesn't really maintain the aspect ratio like we want it to. And so let's go ahead and fix that so it displays properly on all our devices here. And so inside here, we can actually just add some class names to our image here. So I'm going to give it a class name. And what we want to say, I'm going to say width, full, each screen. Actually, don't even have to do that. We probably just say object cover, since it is something to note here, you guys. Since we use this layout fill, okay? So if you didn't use layout fill, you're going to get an error, and that's because in Next.js, whenever you're using an externally imported image, which is what this is, we're pulling it from an outside server. Whenever you do that, you have to define the height and width of the image. If you're importing locally from your public folder, you do not have to do that. Next.js already knows the file dimensions. So if you're not going to be, if you're pulling externally and you're not defining the width and height, then you can say the layout fill. And what that's going to do is just fill to the parent container there. So like I said, this is, and now since we added in the object cover, this should be, it's going to maintain its aspect ratio. So everything is looking good right now. So I do want to add in a little overlay just to kind of darken it up just a tad here. So what we're going to do, let's say div right here, and this can just be a self-closing div here, since we're not going to put anything inside of it. It's just an overlay. So, and I'm going to go ahead and add some notes here. I'm going to say overlay, and then here we'll say background image, just like that. Now inside our overlay, this is going to be position absolute. So we have to define top 0, left 0. And you guys, if you see this here, this little pop-up, this is the Tailwind IntelliSense plugin, you guys. If this is your first time using Tailwind, I'm sorry, I'm just now telling you about it. Go over here to the extensions, and it's called Tailwind IntelliSense right here, you guys. And what that's going to do is going to give you, as you type, it's going to let you know what the Tailwind class is, and also give you recommendations. So I highly recommend that, especially if you're just learning Tailwind CSS. So we'll say, bottom 0, just like that. And then we need to just say BG black, and that's going to give it a background of black. And I'm going to say Z1 there. So we give it a Z index. Now, we don't actually want a black background. We want to use an opacity. And what we can do actually is just have a slash here. And this is all Tailwind, you guys. And as you can see the numbers here. So if you're to say 95, it'd be almost completely back. I don't know if you can even see through that. But in here, I'm going to set it at 40. And it's going to be a nice little dark overlay here. So that's all we need to do for our overlay and our background image. And what I want to do next is actually configure our search form here. So let's go down right here, and for our search, I'm going to give this a little note here. Nice save, we'll get it formatted. Now in here, I'm going to zoom in for you guys. In here, and this is where we're putting our search here. What I want to say for our search here, we're going to have a div here, and then inside this div, we're going to have a form, and we don't need an action or anything. We are going to have an on submit, but we'll worry about that in a minute. And then we'll have a div here, and that's going to be empty. Then we're going to have an input, and hit text is going to be fine. And let's give this a placeholder. We'll say search city, just like that. Now, just below this div, we're going to have our button, and this is what we're going to create, our nice little our search box with our button inside our search magnifying glass there inside of that button. We're going to put this just below that div there, button, and this is just going to say not any text, but this is going to be the BS search, just like that. So make sure you imported this at the top like we did a little bit earlier, and we're grabbing that from the React icons. So if you want to use React icons, you can just type in search or something like that if you don't want to install the package. And then we can have an on click here on this button here, and we'll just run the fetch weather function whenever we click this button. And let's go ahead and give this thing some styling here so we can actually see what we're doing. So that's what we want right there. That's perfect, you guys. Now, so to style this thing, what we're going to say here, so for this div here, we want this to be relative. We'll say flex, justify between their items center, and we're going to give this a max. I'm going to drop this down a bit so you can see it kind of showing up over here, you guys. And I'm going to drop this down just a little bit more, so I want you guys to see this. And I'll zoom in here just a moment. So what we're saying is max width. And in here, what we can actually do is open up some brackets and Tailwind CSS. And what we can do with the brackets, it allows us to add in some custom values. So I'm going to say max width of 500 pixels. And then we'll just say width full, margin auto, just like that. Padding on the top of 4, text white, and then we'll just say Z10 for our Z index. Nice IntelliSense working right there. So perfect. That's what we want right there, you guys. Relative flex, justify between. And this is the same as saying a justify content space between item center. It gives you the preview of the actual CSS. So that's how fast you get to write CSS, you guys. That's why I'm loving Tailwind CSS. And for the form here, we're going to go ahead and give this some class names. And a lot of people are like, oh, you know, Tailwind's such a big file. But guys, whatever CSS you don't use of Tailwind at build, it purges all of the unnecessary and unused CSS. So don't worry about these large build files. So what we're going to say is flex here, justify between, just like that. Items center, width full, same as saying width 100%, as you see right there. Margin auto, just like there. P3, and we'll say BG transparent. Give this thing border gray 300, text white. We'll say rounded, and we'll just say rounded XL here, 2XL. Leaves what I have there, 2XL. And that's all you have to do to add in the rounded corners there. So next, we don't have to touch this div there, but what we are going to want to style is this input here. So let's go ahead and give that a save here. And then this input, the type text is just fine. But for our input, we're going to add in some styles here. We can actually lengthen that up a bit. So see width, see how that looks. Let's do this here. What we're going to say is BG transparent, just like that. And notice it's going to just hide away. Looking better already. Now a few more things here. Border none. We're going to use text white. Focus outline none. So you notice whenever we select in here, you still see the box, and we don't want that. So focus outline none, just like that. Perfect. Then we can say text 2XL. Open up that text a little bit, make it a little bigger. Then for our placeholder, what we can say is the placeholder selector, just like that. We can say text let's see, text white or text gray. Let's just leave it. I was going to leave it to gray, but I think that's good right there. So I think that's going to be good right there. So that's how you use that. If you want to use the placeholder selector in Tailwind. That's how you do it. But you know what? I think that's going to look good. I think that's going to look good just like right there. Now, for our button, let's go ahead and style this button. And then we're going to come back and I think, you know, that's all we need to do actually. But you know, this icon here, let's make it a little bit bigger. And we can just do that by using the size property on React icons. And what we can say is 20. I think it defaults around 10 or 15. So you know, it's a little bit bigger. You know, you can go up as high as you want there. And I believe that's just pixels. So I'm going to leave it at 20. Now, this is where we're going to be grabbing our query to pass into our URL string. So how do we do that? And how we're going to do that is on this input, what we're going to have is an on change. And then on change, we're going to pass through event. And then in here, what we can say is set city. And just so we're getting that set city, this is from our state here, right there. So this is what we're setting inside of this input, everything we put in here. And so we can say set city event.target.value, just like that. Perfect. And now if we, just to show you guys here, I'm going to go ahead and open up our developer tools here. I know my face is down here. I think going to open this up a bit there. So if you just console log here, I'm going to say console log city, just like that. You can see it is empty because we have it set as an empty string. Then once we search up here, you can actually see in our terminal, Miami, Florida. So you can actually see it. And so that's just real time. Every time we type a character inside of that input, it changes. So we can go ahead and get rid of that because I just wanted to show you guys that so you have an understanding of what we're doing here. So next on our form, what we want to have is an on submit, and on submit just like that. And on submit, what we can run is the fetch weather. So that way, whenever we click the button, or if you just want to hit the enter, it's going to work all the same here. It's going to run this fetch weather. And let's just go ahead and open this up one more time here so we can test it out here. So whenever we search a, or you know what, we need to actually pass in our city, because right now should just run our fetch our API, but remember we're not passing in the city, so it's still fetching on that Dubai right there. That's the name. So let's go ahead and actually pass in. How do we pass in our text into that into our query? So let's go up to the top here and give it a refresh there. So inside here, we're going to use our template literal, just like we did with our .env, our process.env file. We're going to do the same. So right here, instead of Dubai, let's go ahead and delete that. And again, for our template literal, $, then our curly brackets. And all we have to do is simply put in the city there. So let's search for New York, for example. Go ahead and press enter. And let's see, this should say New York. Feels like almost 82 degrees, or temp 82 degrees feels like 84. So that's how we're going to pass everything through. Now, what we want to have is our data actually show up on the screen. So let's finish styling this out here. So down here, we'll put this just below our search here. And I'm just going to say weather to have all our data is going to be displaying under here. So next, what we're going to do is actually display our data here. And I actually want to put all of this, instead of just putting all in the index file, we can actually create a new file. I'm just going to create like a components folder, even though this is going to be the only component in here. And, to be honest, you guys, making this in Next.js is probably, just a little bit overkill, but that's okay. If you're just learning Next.js, you got to start small, and that's going to be perfect for us here. Our AFCE, by the way, you guys, that little extension I used was the React Redux ES7 snippets file and extension plugin. So if you want to use that, I had a few people ask me about that. That's how we're going to use that. And then so back of our index file, and what we want to do here is we don't want to show this component unless we actually are getting data back. So this is how we want our screen to look until we actually make a query to our API. So what we want to say here is, what we can say here is weather.main, and .main is just an endpoint in our API here. So basically it's saying if weather.main is true, then it's going to display our weather right there. Okay. And this is the component that we just need to import. So what we can do here, control spacebar here at the end, and it lets you just a little quick shortcut, go ahead and auto import that. So let's make sure it's imported. Perfect. Now, what we need to do is actually pass all of our data. Since we're making our API call on this index folder right here, what we want to do is actually pass our data down through our component here. And that's going to be real easy. All we have to say here is you can say whatever you want. I'm going to call this data. Just some people name it the same thing, and for me, when I was learning, that seemed very confusing to me. I didn't understand it, so I like to use different naming here. So data, and then what we can just pass through is the our weather right here, and all that weather is our state right there. So that's what we're passing down. We're passing down our state, and inside of our weather API here. And if we go ahead and inspect this. By the way, you guys, what I want to do is comment out this console.log. So now whenever we search, we should not see any data down here in our console. And I did that on purpose because and we can go ahead and close this. Inside of our weather app, we need to accept our state that we're passing down right here. So all we need to do is go in here and we can go ahead and destructure this from the get-go, and we'll just say sorry, data, just like that. And then let's go ahead and console.log data. And the reason I deleted the console.log on the first page is because I want to ensure that my data is being passed down correctly. So now if we refresh and search a city in here, we should see our data down here. Perfect. And that's what we want, you guys. So we search Miami, and there it is, Miami right there, 87 degrees. So we can go ahead and delete that. I just wanted to make sure that we are getting the data back correctly. And since we are using that loading, let's go ahead and set up that loading real quick as well. Since we're using that loader that I pulled in, so public. So this loader that we're going to use, I'm just going to bring it in from my other application here that I started. It's just a spinner here, and I'm going to put this inside of my public folder, you guys. So very important you put it inside your public folder. And again, I'm going to upload this to my GitHub, and I'll put a link in the description below. If you just want to clone this or grab any of the files, feel free. I think I just got this from like loader.io or something like that. So that's our loader right there. It's just a spinner.gif. And what I want to do here is go ahead and we're going to go ahead and just import this in our index file just to get this out the way. So import, and I'm just going to say spinner from, and we're going to our public folder just like that, and then just spinner.gif just like that. And now, so our loading is actually set to false because we've already set our loading to false right there in our state. And then whenever we're running our fetch weather function, we're going to set our loading to true. And then whenever we get our response back, we're going to go ahead and set loading back to false. And then down here where we want to return our application, what we can say here is in here, just above our return, we'll say if statement. And if loading, then we want to actually return our loader here. And let's go ahead and create another component here for our say spinner.jsx. And that way we can just return this, we can just return our spinner component here, and that'll make it a lot easier. So RAFCE to just generate our functional component here. And we can actually import, I need to do that in here, spinner. Let's make this lowercase. You can't make it the same as the function's named. Actually, you're going to get some error. So import spinner from, and we'll look for this public folder, and then just spinner. And so in here, actually at the top, we don't need to import spinner from GIF. What we need to do is import spinner there from. So we're actually just pulling in that component, you guys. And so now we have access to the component. So what we can say here, we'll just use our image here. Hey, we can use our next image just like that. Okay. And we can just use a fragment, you guys, or empty brackets there, which is a fragment here and next. And alt could be alt. Yeah, we can just say loading. There we go. Now for our source, all we need to say here is spinner, just like that. And let's go ahead and give this, let's go ahead and just give this class name as well. So for class name, I was going to say width of 200 pixels like that, margin auto, and we'll just say yeah. So that's all we need to do for this, you guys. We go ahead and close the spinner there, and then so now that we've imported our spinner component here, if loading, let's just return our just show our spinner here. So we can just say return spinner, just like that. And we don't have to use any we don't have to put this in parentheses or anything. If you're just returning a single element or a component there. So if loading is true, return the spinner. Else, what we want to do is return all this. So what we can do is just copy all of that right there. And I'm just going to move this up a bit. So all I did was just move that inside of our else statement there. So if loading, return the spinner. Else, we're going to return the rest of our application here. And that's all we need. So there we go. So now we have that all done and out of the way. So inside our weather, inside of our weather component here, this is where we already ensured that we're passing down our data correctly. So everything looks good there. So inside of our weather component, let's go ahead and style this thing out. So we're going to have a div, and let's make this here. Let's go ahead and do it like this. So we're going to have another div inside here. Then we're going to have another div, and this one's going to have our image component here. And this image component is actually going to be our icon. So say alt, just like that there. And what we're doing is the top section here first. So it's going to be a self-closing tag. So for our image, I'm going to go ahead and console.log here data, because I want to show you wherever we're getting our information from. There we go. Now, so if you open, damn it. So if you click on this right here and we scroll down, and I know my face is probably in the way, but if you look down here on the weather right here, it is an array. And so we're just going to access this as a first item in the array. And if you see here, our icon, I'll open this up a bit. Our icon is 04D. And what we're going to do, that 04D is just an endpoint that we're going to put inside of the endpoint inside of this image path here to grab the icon. So feel free to keep that a little bit larger and just refer back to this here. So for the endpoint, what it is, I'm actually going to pull it over here. But you can find this in the documentation here on the OpenWeatherMap. So the source, and this is just going to be an extra link here. So we're going to put this in quotes. That's what it's going to be right there. And then what we can use right here, actually, we need to put this in template literals here. So put some brackets there in template literals. We'll pass that in. And what we want to say here is we're grabbing the template literal here, and it's going to be data. And then we need to access that weather endpoint. So we'll say weather. And since it's an array, it's the first item in the array, we just have to put in 0 there. And then it's just going to be icon like that. And then what we can say is at 2x.png. And what that's going to do is just make it a little bit bigger there. So I don't think we're going to be able to see anything since we haven't done any of our styling here. But that's okay. So don't worry about that. But that's looking good right there. Now, make sure everything is looking good. Perfect. So what we want to use, so it's giving us an error because image is not imported. So let's just go ahead and import that. And this is going to be a good idea here, because since we're not actually we're not using the layout fill, this is going to be an example where we do have to define the width and height. So what it's saying is define width and height. That's no problem. So in here, what we can say here, whoops, we'll say width. And for the width here, I want to set it to 100. And same with the height here. You can set it to whatever you like. I'm going to say 100, and that should be all we need to do is there. So let's just try this one more time. Search Denver up. And okay, we need to also add this to our config file, if you remember. And that's going to be real easy. So just go ahead and select that. And let's go down to our config file here. And then since it's an array, you can just paste it in just like that. And that's going to be all that we need to do. But remember, whenever we make changes to our env file or the next config, all we need to do is we do need to restart our server here. Let's go ahead and give this a refresh. And hopefully, whenever we query a city, we should see, there he goes. So there is our icon, and that's how we're gonna bring in the image component using an external URL and actually adding it to our config file. And we use the layout fill and also define the width and height on some of these here. So next, what we want to do now that we have that installed or configured correctly, I'm going to have a p name here, and inside here, this is going to be the data.weather here, 0, whoops, accessing that first item in the array. And right here, I just want to say main. And this is going to be the temp that displays here. I wish we could see, let's see if we can just keep it open like that. Okay, so, and we're going to come back and install all of this, you guys. So underneath this div, we're going to have another p tag here, and this is going to be the data.weather, or sorry, this is going to be the main.temp here. So data.main.temp, and let's go ahead and give this a 2 fixed. Otherwise, you're going to have a, it's going to be a decimal point for your temp, and we don't want that. So that's what we want to do there. And also we want to use the, we want to display the degree sign, and this is how we can display the HTML code for the degree sign. So just go ahead and do that. Don't mind that little box there. What it is the and sign, the number sign 176, and then the semicolon there. So, and if we go ahead and search this, it should be displaying here. It's not going to show because we haven't set it as relative yet. So, but don't worry about that. So this is the top portion here, and that's going to be all we need to do for the top. And then under here, we can just say this is the bottom here. So let's go ahead and give this thing some style so we can actually see what we're doing here. And zoom out just a little bit. So in here, class name, we want this to be relative, just like that there. On here. There we go. Relative. And then what we're going to say is we want to have a, we want this to be flex column here, justified between. And since we're having a, it's going to be separated top and bottom, that's how we're going to do it there, the justify between. Max width, we'll say 500. Our max width is going to be 500 pixels, just like so. Width full, and the height we're going to say is 90 viewport height. So let's go ahead and add in our brackets there. Margin auto, we'll say P-4, and text gray 300. Let's add Z10. So now you can see that there. And just to show you guys, we deleted that, you know, that's our little sign there. So go ahead and paste that back in there. And this 2 fixed, if we got rid of all that, you're going to see it's just a decimal point. And we don't want that for our degrees there. That's what we need to do right there. So for this second div here, we want to go ahead and give this a class name. And this is going to be, just to give this some notes for you guys, this is the top part. So for this, we want it to be relative flex, justify between, just like that, adding on top of 20. Perfect. So same with this div, flex column, center, perfect. And for our image, we don't need any styling. And for this p tag, I'm going to give it styling text to XL. It's going to make it a little bit larger. And for our like having our information on here, for our fix here for our temp, we're going to go ahead and should be 2001 there. So let's go ahead and, sorry, that was the wrong one there. Here we have our temp. Let's go ahead and this class name. And for this one, I want it to be text. I'm going to use 9XL, and it's going to make it a lot. So perfect, you guys. That's what we want right there. Now, next, what I want to do is go ahead and just style the bottom part of this thing. And we're going to put that in down here. So for the bottom part, let's create a div here. We're going to have a p tag inside of here. This set is going to say weather in, and then what we can grab is the weather in, and then we can grab the name in here. So what it is, just weather dot or data dot name, and that'll be Dallas right there. So what we can say is data dot name, just like that. And oh, there it is right there. We haven't finished styling it, but that looks good right there. Perfect. And then we're going to have a div under here with another div there. And inside here, we're going to have a p tag. And this is going to say we'll say data.main.feels like, go. And let's go ahead and copy this over. Use that as well. And what we want to say here is to fixed. Okay, 0. Looks like I have just an extra curly bracket in there. And we'll add our little % there. Perfect. So that's what we want right there, you guys. Make sure my face is staying in the screen here. And so now we have that feels like, and then just under there, feels like. Yeah. And let's just go ahead and we're going to copy this down. There we go. And in this next one, what's going to say is humidity, and then this last one is going to be wind. And so for this one here, see, it's data.main.humidity, and we can go ahead and data main.humidity. There we go. And instead of the degree sign, we can just get rid of that. Let's percentage there. And then down here, what we're going to use is the wind speed. So we don't need any of that there. And is it main data.wind speed? It's like that. And we'll say 2.2 fixed. And we just leave that. So everything is looking good right there. We're probably going to want to add a, we'll say H, just like that. Looks good. Perfect. So next, let's go ahead and style this thing at the bottom here. So for this here, we're going to have a little overlay over it. So let's give the class name. We say BG black, just like that. And I'll say 75 for a nice overlay. Hey, there you go. Let's drop this down. Go, drop that down so it's there. Now, okay, BG black 75, and you can change this if you want here. I might say 50, make it a little bit lighter. And so we want this to be relative, and then P-8 for some padding. We'll say rounded MD in here so we can get some nice little rounding edges. It's good. So for this here class, we'll say text to Excel, and we're going to want this to be right in the middle there. So we'll just say text center, and then padding bottom of 6 to give it middle. Perfect. So this next div is just going to surround all of these 3 divs down there. So let's just give this class name and flex justify clean, and then we'll say text center, just like that. And that should spread everything out. That's looking good already. Now we don't need to add anything to these parent divs that are holding this information in here. We are just going to want to style these here, and they're all going to be the same. So what I'm going to do is actually just hold down this option button, and as you see, it's allowing me to actually select multiple lines in VS Code. And what this is just going to do is just save some time. That way we can apply multiple styles here, because what we want to say is a font bold and then text to XL, just like that, and it's going to beef up these top sections right there. So that's all we need to do. And then the same thing for these bottom here. I'm just going to select here, and for these bottom ones, class name, I'm just going to say text XL, just like that. So let's have a look right here. So let's go ahead and close this, you guys, and let's open this up, make sure it's displaying properly here. Give it a refresh. We're going to type in Mumbai, right? There we go. Haze. You can see this is our icon right there. I don't really love the icons that we're grabbing over from OpenWeatherMap, but everything is looking great so far. So I hope you like this build, you guys. Now, if you want to deploy this, I'm going to put a link here somewhere on the screen. You're going to have a link to deploy a Next.js application. And you guys, this is going to take maybe 5 minutes at most. So if you want to learn how to actually build this application and deploy it to the web for free using Vercel, then go ahead and click one of these links here, and I'll show you how to deploy this thing. So thanks for following along, you guys. We just built a Next.js weather application styled with Tailwind CSS. Click here if you want to deploy this thing. Thanks for watching, you guys. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next one.